Hello and welcome to Mr. Clark After Dark, everyone. My name is Lucas Clark and I am a certified educator with Alberta Education and the Alberta Teachers Association. All conversations and interactions exchanged is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. In no way does the content discussed intend to be in violation of the ATA Code of Conduct or meant to target any individual student, teacher, or to belittle or demean the profession in any way. If you have something that you would like me to discuss or have a story of your own to share, please reach out at lucasrdclark97@gmail.com. You can also send a direct message to me on Instagram at Mr. Clark After Dark. Hope you enjoy the show, and please do not forget to subscribe. And now, on to the show. Hope you all enjoy.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mr. Clark After Dark. Today, I have on the one and only Mr. Greg Pollard. It's nice to finally have a chance to sit down with Greg. Been trying to get this one put together for a while. Greg is currently in his 17th year in the profession. On part one of the conversation today, we discuss his story of being called Mr. Yummy as a nice name that a student's parent had for him in the early days of his teaching mutual respect to students, not being a movie watcher, building relationships with students and avoiding the traditional teacher persona, adapting to a new school and the culture within it, finding sufficient ways to supplement the teaching income, imposter syndrome, adjusting his approach to his job after becoming a father, admiration for people willing to be in administration, that kids today are maturing much slower, but that this might not be a bad thing, knowing that even though teaching is a lot of work, I could be in a gulag, and of course, much more. Thank you all for tuning in. Really do appreciate all the support, and I hope you enjoy the show. Well, finally,
Here.
Mr. Pollard or Mr. Yummy,
Yeah.
finally on the
God.
podcast with me.
This is funny.
Yeah.
I tell my daughter bedtime stories every night,
Okay.
and it gets to a point where it's hard to think of stories, right?
Yes.
Like from my childhood and everything.
Yeah.
Tonight, I told her that story.
No.
Tonight, it's funny you say it because literally, I just put her to bed and told her that story.
Wow.
She laughed so hard.
So that is hilarious. So what is the Mr. Yummy story?
Oh, it's a
Mr.
classic.
Pollard. Yeah.
I didn't know how to tell it. I actually, yeah.
So you're a couple years in, or like first year, or
Well,
Here?
no, I was at Beacon Hill, so
Yeah.
it would have been year 6 or so.
okay. Oh, okay.
5 or 6. I was a Greeley Road for 3 years and Beacon Hill for 4 years. So
Okay.
whatever I say.
I didn't know that you did 7 years in elementary.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
K to 8.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some rope and some junior high in there, breaking it up a little
Yeah,
bit. But
that was
yeah.
mainly junior high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the Apple Schools guy, and
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Go on. I'll come back to that
Apple
after.
oh my god, teaching grade 1, I think it was
Yeah.
1 or 2.
I remember you told me the student. I won't say it.
No,
but
I
like,
won't
yeah,
say name
yeah.
either. But just teaching, she comes up, tugs my pants. I'm like, oh hey, and she goes, Mr. Pollard. Yeah, what's up? My mom has a nickname for you. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, yeah, great. I was like, yeah, go play. And she's like, you want to know what it is?
I love the persistence here.
Oh
Like,
yeah. I was
you-
like, okay, whatever. Yeah, what is it? She goes, it's Mr. Yummy. And I was like, oh my god. I was like, okay, yeah, go play.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
That's a
It's like, I'm
classic.
flattered. Tell your mom thanks. But
Yeah. At the 10-year teacher banquet that we had.
Yeah.
Or was it must have been my 15 year.
Okay.
They got us to write in a blurb about ourselves and our most memorable teaching moment. And I put that.
That's
Came
hilarious.
up in the slideshows as I'm walking up.
Like Mr. Yummy, 15
Yeah.
years. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been teaching now?
This is 17.
17 years.
It's crazy, buddy.
So
it's hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
does it still feel like when people ask you like, oh, like year 5 or 6?
Yeah.
Does it, I
Doesn't
kind of
feel
get
like
the
17.
where obviously I know I'm only whatever, but I feel like I'm still, I tell kids like I feel like I'm 16 in my head.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I'm assuming this is probably just gonna like keep happening until I'm like 75, and I'm like, oh, I still feel 25
Oh.
in my head, which is very strange, but
I feel the same way. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I just hit 40, right? So then
Yeah.
I'm trying to think it's just a number, but I'm also like, I'm kind of old now, like especially up in Fort McMurray, you know, like
Yeah, I think the average age is 33.
Yeah.
Someone, I think, someone told that like last week.
and a
which
lot
is
of the
crazy.
teachers that came up when I came up
Mhm.
in 07
From where? Where are you? You're from?
from PEI.
And so, did you go to school in PEI as
Yep.
well? Right. Yeah.
I did my Bachelor of Arts and
Yeah.
then education right after. So 6 years straight university.
Yeah. All in PEI. That's sweet
You
though.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. Lots of golf.
Yeah, lots of golf. That's why I go back every
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
And then, there's no jobs there at the time. So the Fort McMurray used to send whole crews of people out, like a big job fair.
Yeah.
All over the place. And so they signed me
Yeah.
like right away. And I was like, Kelly, like I was dating Kelly at the time.
Okay.
And she wanted to leave PEI too, like just to get away.
Yeah.
You know, so we took it.
Yeah.
Came out.
And what year you come out here? First year is teaching elementary.
It was
in Greeley
junior
Road.
high. It was K to 8,
Okay.
but junior high. So it's weird. I have so many different paths I've taken. Like a English major, history minor, and so I came out here teaching, grade 7, 8,
Mhm.
English and social studies and stuff like that.
And how did you find like the first couple of years out here? Was it like difficult? Was it like pretty easy? Was it kind of felt like you were like, oh yeah, like I'm a teacher. This is actually going a lot like easier than I thought, or was it?
Wild. Yeah,
Hey, yeah.
almost like in above grad. Like I look at myself back then, I think like I think I was awful. Like I like
Yeah.
you know
And-
if you
Which
ask
is not
the
a bad
kids
thing.
that I
Yeah.
taught, they probably said, "Oh, you're a great teacher." But
Yeah.
looking back, I was like, "Wow, like you just go right in, right?"
Yeah.
Because university doesn't really prepare you for it.
No, and that's the cliche, but I'm wondering, is there even a way that you can prepare someone? I feel like you don't.
Probably not.
Yeah. Because again, I always say, I hope in 5 years, everything I'm doing is just, I think like, oh, I was such an idiot back then.
Yeah.
But I almost find, like, what has the experience taught you? That's my big thing of, I know it's like you can tell someone who's 15 years old the most inspirational quotes in the world about like lessons you learn, but they're not going to care because they're 15. They're going to experience for themselves.
That's right.
But what do you actually, how have you changed your approach?
Oh, I've definitely changed. Almost like more laid back.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Like in what way? Like, what do you mean by laid back?
dealing with kids and there's like relationships with them and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like I remember my first couple of years just really like, I guess strict and like
Yeah.
I was probably more worried about like doing my job perfect, like whoever like not screwing up so much.
Well, you have this like stereotype of idea of teacher in your mind.
Yes.
That's you're always trying to be on par with.
That's right.
And I feel even in my first couple of years here, like subbing for a couple of years and now teaching full time for a few years, I'm starting to like be more strict in some ways, but like more laid
Yes.
back and kind of the expectations of what you're going to get out of them.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm noticing so
For
far. Is
sure.
that kind of similar for you?
Oh yeah. Like if you ask any of the kids I teach, like I'm very strict in a lot of ways, but then absolutely not strict in other ways.
Yeah.
You know?
So in what, like, how are they different?
Well, like even like say my social studies class, I go in and I tell them like, you don't speak when I'm speaking. Like when I'm
Mhm.
teaching, you don't interrupt me.
Mhm.
You don't. But
Well, you're teaching respect.
yeah,
That's just common courtesy to
That's
just
right.
not interrupt someone, which
yes.
is, I find it's the craziest request to make.
Yeah, I know.
That,
Don't
okay,
interrupt
I'm
me.
speaking and I'm trying to, I'm working and
Yeah.
I'm trying to actually teach something. And then it's just, let's have a full on conversation in
I
the
know.
middle of him talking. And yeah.
But then my style of teaching is really just, it's almost like a lecture in a way, but it's not even a lecture, it's a conversation. Like I sit at the front of the room. Oftentimes I'll just sit on one of the desks,
I'm the exact same. Yeah.
and sit there and I teach and I go through my slides, they do their thing, but I really try to do it more like just a conversation.
Yep.
And I'm constantly thinking of, how do I relate this to like modern day examples or
Mhm.
like movies, like,
Yeah, that's true.
you know.
And I think I don't watch like any movies at all. I don't know
No?
why. I've
Oh,
literally
I love
watched like the Equalizers lately, but because I don't know. Maybe I'm lying to myself. I just feel like whenever people ask me if I've seen a movie, there's just so much out there now that I haven't seen that. And like the Avengers and like Marvel movies, I've never
No?
been a big
Oh.
fan myself. And not that I don't like them, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's never been kind of my lane.
I'm a big
But-
nerd in my own way.
Yeah,
I love
okay.
all that
So
stuff.
how do
yeah.
you channel your inner nerd into teaching?
Well, I do relate to a lot of movies.
Okay, yeah.
Like even us teaching grade 10 social studies.
Yeah.
And
We do film studies, and there's certain films that you watch, but like
Yeah.
having those other references to try and even like apply to other kids' interests is going to like get someone to pipe up.
yes,
Right.
help them understand.
Yeah.
Because what was it, chapter 6 in social 10-2 is about First Nations, right? It's
Yeah.
all about cultural contact and
Yeah.
stuff. And, I relate to like movies where the aliens come.
Yes.
And like, what happens every time? They have better
Yep.
technology, a lot of times they bring like viruses that
Yeah.
infect the people and, and then they come to take our resources and things like that. So that's social studies.
Yes.
That's history.
Yeah. Well, and
Right?
and I find they never understand that there's like is it the allegory? Is
Yeah.
that that there's actually a coded or not a not so coded message in pretty much all these films that kind of
Yes.
relate to these real life events. Yeah.
Because the movies are probably written based on history, right? When they write their alien movies,
Yeah.
it's based
Well,
on
like you're
context.
getting those ideas from somewhere. So
Yeah.
you're kind of like channeling the interest there in some way, but what are some like do you have like a process for trying to build relationships with your students?
I don't know if I'd say a process other than just it sounds really just talking to them.
Yeah.
Like I just talk to them and like, yeah, just, I don't know. I try not to treat them like they're like a kid, I guess, especially high school. Like my graphic design is a great example.
You want to be talked down to kind of
Yeah.
thing? Yeah.
And just talk to them about stuff. And we always talk about like, especially kids who play sports, like talk to them about their game, right?
Yeah.
Talk to them about their weekend. And yeah, I don't know. I just get a better response, I think. Like my graphic design class is great because I just like hang out with them and I show them cool things and they love it. Try not to like put on like a persona, like the teacher persona necessarily, right? I tell them like, hey guys, like I have credits for you and this is what we got to do. So let's get it done, right?
Yeah. So do you think there's because I'm slowly breaking like or getting the teacher mold out of my head.
Yeah.
Of like you have this idea of perfect teacher and I'm very much trying always to be like not be a perfectionist. That was kind of always my biggest problem, especially like I remember preparing for my university practicums thinking, okay, I have 90 minutes with these grade 8 junior highs. Every minute needs to be full. I need to be talking for all of these 90 minutes. And I feel like I keep kind of re-bringing this up, but I think it's just because we put a lot of guilt on ourselves when we feel like we don't fit that internal mold that we have in our heads.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of work being a teacher. It's a lot of planning and, like even from planning out like a semester and making sure like, okay, this month, this week, I did this done and this done and this done. It's a lot.
Well, because I would say, and that's the opposite of what actually ends up happening is because it's not scripted, it's improvised.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Not saying that like usually, I mean, I'll think of a week plan and think of like what I need to get through that week. And then it just kind of happens. Like I don't really have from 10:15 to 10:35 they're going to do this think pair share. It's like no, you kind of read the room and kind of
teach in school, right? Every lesson plan, right? Like okay for 15 minutes,
like 11-page lesson plans. And I always come back to I think that was good for kind of crafting the intent.
That's right.
For an assignment, like you're trying to show, okay, these are things that you should be considering when kind of developing your plans and stuff. But
I think it just comes naturally after you write those plans for years, and then it just comes naturally the flow of a class, right? How you,
Did you have a hard time like disciplining students at the gate, or like dealing with conflict?
I would say yes, especially back in Greeley Road. Those were some tough years. Just tough crew.
Just like the class, like the groups in general were kind of
a
bit more rambunctious, I guess. But.
Yeah.
So how did that change? Is it just different classes have different kind of approaches, or what was the?
Yeah, I think it's more that I changed, and I think just the way kids, they know what to expect from me now more so. Where like because I let them know, like even the odd curse word a kid lets out, say.
Yeah.
Back in the day in Greeley Road, I'd get angry and like, oh, you're in trouble now. And now it's just like, Well, most of the time I just pretend I don't hear it. Because if they're sitting over at a desk and they're working and they, hear it, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, why is that an issue?
Yeah.
Where I used to care about that and now I don't. But then if I hear a kid drop, 4 or 5 F-bombs, I'll be like, buddy,
I know. Well, I'm kind of the same way where I'm like, okay. And I'm always like, if you swear, I don't want to hear it. And 2, don't swear at me.
Yeah,
that's kind of like, don't, whatever. And that hasn't happened, but I always kind of joke with them because I feel like even though I laugh, it's still something that I need to say.
Yeah.
But so do you think education and teaching has changed in your 17 years now? Because a common theme that we come back to with a lot of the teachers is, I think it's like 10% of teachers would recommend teaching to a young adult right now. And so, but when I was growing up, it was teaching's the best job ever, but you just won't get a job because there's so many spots. So like, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know what changed. I don't know, right? Like, and it's hard for me because I have the best job now.
So how have your teaching jobs been different, and like why is this the best one?
Well, I taught English major, come out here, go to Greeley Road, teaching English, grade 7, 8, and it was good, but it's so much work too. Even junior high, it's so much work, and high school is even worse. Yeah,
I feel like junior high is almost even more work because you're doing a lot more kind of skill building and like like smaller level stuff. So you have a lot of like micro stuff to
especially
do.
Grade 7.
Yeah,
there's learning how to write essays and stuff.
Yeah.
So like that was a lot of work, but then I don't know. A job came up at Beacon Hill. I saw the posting. It was a phys ed job, and I thought probably naive, I guess, but I'm just like, I'd like to do some phys ed.
Well, change it up. And so how many years did you feel like there's a time where like I kind of need to change?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I felt that I had to change. It's just kind of like phys ed. It just, it's kind of a dream, even though now looking back, well, you know my story. Like I taught here phys ed forever, junior high, and now that I'm not doing it, I'm like, it's a nice break not doing it.
Yeah.
But at the time it was, kind of a dream job. So I just applied and I went and met George Decker. You wouldn't know George. Passed away.
Oh.
I don't know how many years ago now. He was awesome. One of the best administrators you'd ever.
So what was it about him? Was he like kind of a mentor to you, or was it just kind of like informally a little bit?
Probably informally. He was like, again, like laid back and kind, and just I don't know,
just an understanding person.
Ask around, ask teachers around.
I think I've heard the name before, even in you just saying that, like the name, it might just be like a common name, like George Decker, but
yeah. I remember too, because I saw the job and I called him up and said, "Hey, can I just come and chat to you about the job?" And so I did. And years later, he said, "Yeah, it was weird that you did that, but it was really good that you did that, to come and chat."
And it's funny you say that, because I remember I was pretty fortunate because I got to sub at all the schools here before I actually ended up like applying somewhere. But I would say to people, "Oh, I'm just gonna like reach out to their principal and just see if like we can have a chat." Everyone was like, don't do that. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, it's just a conversation. It just seemed
normal to me.
Yeah, I know. Like,
maybe I was naive, but I was like, "Hey, can I just talk to you about the job?"
Yeah, I didn't think that was weird. Like, there's just, I think it's a, they're just people. Yeah. Like principals aren't these like scary people in the office with their door locked and they're gonna beat you with a meter stick if you're bad. It's just. They're just people, and that was it. They're trying to fill positions at their school. So
yeah, exactly. I remember walking in his office too, and I picture him with his golf buddies on the wall. And I was like, "Oh, you're a golfer." And like, usually golfers, like you're part of like the cult.
You're automatically
you're a community of like-minded people.
Yes. So you also waste your money to swear, but very good. Yeah.
I was also like back then too. So I'm diabetic and I wasn't taking care of myself for years and years. Yeah. And I was probably 140 pounds at the time. We're now like 200.
140 pounds. Wow.
Tiny.
Wow.
And then years later, George said to me too, he's like, he called me up for that interview, like informal interview. Yeah. And he said, his first thought was like, "Wow, like who's this guy, this skinny guy coming in and wanting to teach phys ed?" But he said, "I just, I liked you and gave you a shot," kind of thing. Yeah.
And so was that conversation like weird? when you ended
No.
up having it?
It wasn't. I was just
Yeah.
chatting. So, I
Yeah.
told him, like, I never taught phys ed, but I played some sports and I think I could do
Yeah.
it. And so it
Just
worked out.
shooting the shit. It's like, I don't see why this needs to be a big thing. But
Yeah.
yeah. And so how many years are you at Beacon Hill after?
4 years there. And then kind of the same thing happened where a job popped up here. Thomas Andrews, they moved him in August.
So did you work with him before?
No.
Okay.
Well, I guess like I coached sports teams up at Beacon Hill, so
Okay.
I knew Thomas and stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, I think he went to be the VP at Dickensfield. And I don't know
Yes.
why
Yeah.
it was so late,
Yep.
but it was like a couple weeks before school started.
Mhm.
And then this job pops up, and I was doing phys ed for a bunch of years, and I loved it. And this, athletic director at Nicole McTavish pops up. There's your lights.
And so as you're kind of going through each of these 3 schools, one of the things I've wondered is I don't really have that much experience in other schools, but when it comes to adapting to the school culture of a new one, how are each kind of different? And like, how did you adapt yourself into it?
Yeah. Well, they're also different, right? Beacon Hill, Greeley Road was great, but it was full. We were all young teachers,
Okay.
young teachers, and we're all.
That's kind of
away from
nice for
home.
starting something new.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are good years. Beacon Hill was a tiny school with really involved community parents.
So did you like being at a smaller school?
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah?
nice. Yeah, the parents are great. You knew every kid in the school and every
Mhm.
parent. So, and the staff was really tight. And I think George had a lot to do with that. Just a
Mhm.
small staff, and
Yep.
yeah. But then moving here, it was a bit of a shock because it's so much bigger.
And it's only gotten bigger, like
Yeah.
exponentially,
Yeah.
pretty much.
But like, I guess I don't know. Maybe it's just my personality. I never had much of an issue just getting along with people
Yeah,
and figuring it out as
that's
I go.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's different, right? Like big and small schools, and I almost feel sometimes I have like an imposter complex because
What is that like?
do you know what I mean by an imposter
100%.
complex? So like
Yes.
I don't know, man. Like there's something there, and I just thought, I'm gonna try that out, or like like
Also, like you want to kind of feel like an imposter?
no,
Again?
that
Okay.
I feel like one, but
Okay.
like I go in and I don't know, I go places and I'm successful for the most part.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't think I'm like as good as like I don't think like I'm necessarily the right person for this, but it's working out. Kind of, I don't know. Reffing hockey was kind of the same thing
Yeah.
where I forget where I must have been teaching at Beacon Hill
Uh-huh.
and just poor. I didn't
Yeah.
have any money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like we were making nothing
Yes.
back then.
Yeah.
I remember driving to work from Thickwood up the hill, and it came on the radio, this referee thing, and I thought, because I was thinking about getting a part-time job, and I was
Yeah.
like, where do I go? And like,
Which is insane. Like
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
so that came on the radio, like Referees Association. So I started that,
Yeah.
and even that I moved up the ranks pretty quick. But even when I did, I was like, I don't think I'm as good as they think I am, but like I'll just keep on, like.
So you
maybe
kind of
I
always
was, though. Maybe I was.
have you kind of always had that though?
Maybe.
Because I've actually one of the reasons you always seem in control.
It's good to
And
hear.
just kind of and kind of just like getting to know you a little bit over the last couple of years, like you never seem phased.
No, it takes a lot.
Yeah,
It
and
takes a lot to kind of get me angry
Yeah.
or
like you're pretty neutral,
Yeah.
but even from a like stress point, like with the job or anything like that. So when it comes to the imposter thing, like, do you feel like you still have that?
no, I don't.
Yeah. So when did it start to go away?
That's hard to say. I guess once I came here and started doing athletic director stuff,
Mhm.
I remember meeting with Scott too because I was hired so late, like a week before school started. And I
Yep.
remember saying like, "Listen, I'll do like thanks. I'm glad to be here,
Yep.
but like I don't think I'd be a very good basketball coach. Like I don't
Yep.
really know anything about the game, but I'll coach, right?
Yep.
Like, and so you do it. And I guess I just work hard and figured it out, I guess. Never coached like the high level teams, but I was like, if I didn't know how to do it, I did everything I could possibly do to learn it.
Okay. Yeah.
Like same with this graphic design stuff, right? Like I said to Scott, like, hey, let's buy our own stuff. And I didn't know how to do anything, like nothing. I said, hey, let's buy our own equipment. We can make our own clothing here. And
So you had this idea like years ago.
yeah, years ago.
Okay.
Because we used to buy all our warm-up clothes from like,
I thought this was recent, like only like last year.
it's been like
Okay.
5, 6,
Oh,
7
we've only just
years.
moved in here last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We buy all our stuff from Edmonton, and
Mhm.
we wouldn't get our clothing until the season's done.
Yep.
And then names would be screwed up, and
Yeah. Whatever.
just, I knew that you could do this kind of thing, and then I said, like, let's get our own.
Yeah.
Right?
And so you've doubled down on that now.
Yeah.
And so one of the things where, like we talk about the teacher salary, like how much should teachers make? You can go on about that forever. The fact that it's kind of decided for us that any sort of extra work you do outside of work, you're guilted for, kind of informally, which is insane. But
I got over that.
Yeah.
in recent years.
Fanning yourself with hundreds and you're getting over
I
that.
know, but I got over like the guilt, right? Like,
Yeah.
do what you got to do.
But the guilt is weird. I just think the whole thing, and I'll talk to other people in other professions, and they're like, it's crazy that you even, like the idea that you are going in to do extra work, and different for like marketing, but when it comes to extracurriculars and just the whole volume of it, like I'm even seeing right now, people who are putting on the play at our school, like they're here night in, night out, every weekend. And now maybe you can't afford to pay each of those people $10,000 each, right? But at the same time, there's no recognition, which is the weird part, right? But it's almost kind of
compensation, right? There's
but it's
recognition, but there's no compensation.
Yeah, and so I remember even, I don't know, I don't think she would mind me talking about this, but like Erica Cook, I think when she was my mentor teacher there a couple of years ago, she said right after she had her first kid, she came back from her mat leave, but wanted to kind of go about it as if nothing ever changed. Yeah. But she was absolutely exhausted trying to do everything and be a mom. And that was just, so the idea that it doesn't require extra time or effort is strange. Yeah. Yeah.
That was a big change for me too. Like so much and not to like brag, but I spent so much time here, like the first few years coaching and hosting tournaments and everything. Yeah. And then when my daughter came along, I just couldn't. And it wasn't even really a choice because my wife always taught fitness classes in the evening. Mm-hmm. So before kids was fine. We'd both get home at 9:00 at night. But then when my daughter was born, she didn't get maternity leave or anything, my wife. So she went back to work right away. So I'd go home, and I still do, right after work. And I'd watch the kids while she goes to work. So I said, I felt bad, but I said, I just can't do it. And I did coach still for a while. Sometimes I'd go home, pick up Athena, bring her back here, coach my basketball practice or have her at the tournaments. It's a lot.
And it feels like you're never not in it. Yeah. And that can be a lot. Yeah. And so did Athena enjoy, or was it kind of
She did, but also I'm quite small. I remember coaching volleyball and she'd be crawling around everywhere, and I'm still kind of coach. So I remember I took her and just put her in the basket with all the volleyballs, and she played with them. But I was like,
"This is crazy.
This is crazy,
this is kind of crazy."
Even just the last couple of nights, I missed our varsity girls final, but I went to the JV girls game, and then I couldn't stay for the boys one because I had to get the kids back home to bed. Yeah, and then I came back for the boys final, and I brought her. She's old enough to kind of do her thing. Yeah, but then I brought Aiden, and I'm walking in there with a big diaper bag and all these coats and snacks. And it was fine. Yeah, but I was like, you couldn't do this on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's an event thing. It's not I coach every day and do this.
Yeah, and it was specifically, it was for the kids. I had a couple of girls in grade 10 phys ed. Mr. Pollard, finals coming up. Are you going to go? And I said, at the time, I was like, well, I'll try my best. But in my head, I was like, I have to go to that game. These kids are specifically asking me, hey, are you going to come watch us? You can't miss it.
Yeah,
and I loved it. It was like,
it's great. But I've even found this year, because this year is actually the first time that I've had 4 full cores. Yeah. in a semester.
It's a lot, man.
And I mean, I'm starting this out. This hasn't been like too bad or like too time consuming. But when it comes to like, I don't have any time through the day to chip away at any of my other work.
Yeah.
And then I'll miss games sometimes because I'm home doing other work, and I'm like, I'm not. I get to the point where I'm not even really paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, tonight I have to do this.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night I have to do this. Then my cat's got this appointment, and I got to go here and there. And I don't have kids, so I can only imagine what that grind is like. Even more so once you have them.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to get any better because the older she gets, the more things they get in. And Aiden, probably going to play hockey. And
of course, yeah.
You need have to coach.
The referee legend has to live on in the Pollard family. So.
Right? Yeah, and and I still feel bad about Perano was asking me like, Pollard, can you please coach? And I say like, Pete, like I really would love to, but I can't. I can't commit to it.
Yeah. And
it's too bad.
So do you find that teaching does help with like a work-life balance?
In what way?
In terms of like, now that you have your 2 kids, like, because the schedule technically can be like you're finished at 3:30. Like the flexibility, do you think that like is...
It works.
Yeah.
Because I am home with the kids every evening now,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. But then, I'm very close with my daughter because ever since she was newborn, I would put her to bed every night because my wife would teach her class. So still very, very close with her. And
she knows all the stories.
Yeah. And like just spending time when I come home at 4, she takes all my attention until 8:00 at night or later, and then get them to bed, and then now it's 9. Now I have to start my work. Yeah. Like now I need to mark my essays. Or now I need to.
Well, then you're reffing, and then and you're because you have like your own. I don't know how much you can talk. Like you have a business, like making
clothing,
athletic wear for like teams and stuff now, like on your own. But and so you have a lot going on. So like. So I don't mean for this to sound cheesy, but like, how has being a dad changed you?
Oh my God. I don't know how much it changed me.
Did you expect it to change you? Because I'm like terrified to have a kid, but I don't know.
It's the best.
Okay.
But it also sucks.
Okay. Right? Again, an answer I hear a lot, but yeah.
I told the kids about my job here. Like, I say, guys, I hate my job 50% of the time, and I absolutely love my job 50% of the time.
Yeah. So why?
It's good and bad. Just because, Friday meetings and marking essays and all those kinds of things. But no, I don't know how much it's changed. Because my wife, we never thought we'd have any kids. Mm-hmm. We always said no, and then. Just after the fire, we decided to, and it's the best thing that ever happened. And I don't know, I'm a pretty loving guy. Yeah. Like like as soon as she was born, it was just, I was like, okay, like here we go. Like
I actually heard someone on a podcast today said it feels like someone does a surgical procedure on you, and now your heart is living outside of you.
Oh wow, yeah.
Is that kind of like? Oh
yeah.
Yeah.
Everything, even when they're young, they're like, they get sick and like you're terrified. Like
really?
Oh my God. Oh my God. And like minor sicknesses, but like
oh yeah, the nose is ready.
Worst day ever. Yeah. And I always think like I'm becoming more. It's probably a midlife crisis kind of thing. But I'm becoming more reflective on like everything. I don't know.
Okay, elaborate.
Like spending time with kids.
Yeah.
Because I think I always have this idea of like, what will they think of me like when I'm dead?
Like your legacy kind of thing, yeah.
Right?
Maybe legacy is the wrong word, but
no, it's just a legacy. What are they gonna remember about you? Yeah. And I always think about the Cats in the Cradle song. Do you know that song?
If you sing it, I probably will.
Oh my God. Yeah, how old are you? You're young. The song, who wrote that? Is it Cat Stevens?
What are the lyrics that kind of?
Well, the song's all about. Yeah. It's all about a baby being born and a dad. Okay. And then as the kid grows, the kid keeps on saying like, "Hey, do you want to play catch?" And the dad always says, "I can't." I got this.
It's report to finish.
Yeah, gotta work.
Yeah.
keeps on growing up, and it's always the same thing. And like the dad says, I'd love to do that, but I can't. I gotta do this. And then at the end, the dad's old and calls the kid, says, hey, like, haven't seen you in a while, kind of thing. Do you want to meet up? And the kid says, yeah, I'd love the dad, but like kids with the flu and work's busy and blah, blah, blah. And I always think like, I don't want to be that. Like, like you
don't want to be absent.
No, I don't want to be absent. I want to remember like, yeah, dad was always with us, spend time with us. And so like, if you're going to trade, like people say, oh, Pollard doesn't coach anymore. I'd rather my daughter
but
saying
the fact that that's even a thought you have
is sad.
It's sad.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, oh man. So a student next to me, they're like, Mr. Clark seems to me like a leave at 3:30 kind of teacher.
Oh no way. Really?
I was like, I feel like I try hard. I was like, but immediately after, I was like, oh yeah, weird. You leave your job when your day is over.
Weird. Eh?
That's like, what is? That's a weird like. I mean, it's not putting forward an expectation, but it is. It's kind of saying like, oh, like you need to do more in order for you to be doing your job, which is, again, I would definitely encourage, like, try to find some sort of lane that you are, that you can do to try and like, because you do feel like fulfillment once you're actually like doing some stuff that you actually, because I'm sure when you were even feeling like an imposter trying to learn basketball, you still probably enjoyed coaching the team.
Loved it.
Yeah. So it was still fun. But
all those kids are coached, you know, like a lot of them are grown up now, and they'll like years after graduating, they'll add me on Instagram and you know, like following your life.
And that's cool. I find, especially like my first year was teaching grade 12, and like kids after they graduated would like follow me on social media, and I'm seeing their lives like right away. And that's been already been really cool to see. But like parenthood, like you're hoping to get into it, right? Yeah, like in the next couple of years, like we're thinking about it. And I guess right now I have this thing of like a fear of being limited. Is that like weird?
Like because of kids?
Yeah. But I think that's an understandable fear, or like a common fear.
It is what it is. Same thing with reffing hockey for me now, right? Like I just tell them, like, guys, I just can't help you out.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's just the next stage of like maturing or growing up. It's just now you have your family. Like it's not about you anymore, and you kind of adapt. Yeah. But so I think it's like you can't know what it's like until you're actually there.
That's right. But maybe when I'm 55 and the kids are older, I can go back into ref.
Some people, I've heard like people who like they go back into administration once their kids are finished high school.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that's a little different. It's like, okay, now they're doing their own thing. Yeah. Like we have some time now, we can kind of cushion ourselves and take kind of like the more responsibility gigs. It's not just you do it because you feel like you need to at 30 years old. That's right. Any admin aspiration?
Oh man,
for you?
I've had. Oh, I don't know.
Because I think again, you're not saying that the admin I've even ever dealt with have been bad. Because I think I'm still way too early to even have an opinion of what a good. I don't know like who would even be whatever. But you strike me. This is not to blow smoke up your ass, but it's like you're the kind of person that you'd want to see in, but you don't really want to do. Is that accurate? Or
it's pretty accurate. I've had like friends of mine who are admins up here say like, you know, you really should do it. I think you'd be good. And part of me thinks it would be good, but I also think, just to be honest, and I wouldn't be able to give the time.
It's
into it.
It's
like
dedication.
Yeah,
like
you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, like, and also like, I was joking with Mark and Evelyn at the Meet the Teacher night because they said something about that too, or somebody brought it up. I said, I guess I could go be an administrator, or I could teach guitar every day. And they laughed because I love my job. Yeah, like I don't want to go into admin, and I don't know. It seems like they deal with a lot of stuff, and I teach the graphic design class is amazing. We have fun every day making clothing and stuff, and you're building
you're in it building the relationships, not putting out fires.
Yeah,
that's a lot of stress on you. And I was talking with Sheldon the other day.
Yeah,
and
it's good.
Well, and he said the worst parts about teaching are dealing with problems and problem behaviors and spreadsheets and paperwork.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just described being an administrator. And he's like, and it's easy, but that's just he's like, yeah, you get paid a little bit more, but it requires you probably working an extra work week a month.
Yes.
Like another 10 hours a week for sure, if not more than that.
If not more.
And not that it's all about the money or whatever, but it's just there comes a point when it's just as an individual. Like, do you, and it would be my assumption with my history of like personal imposter syndrome that I would always feel behind if I was ever in that position. But
yeah, I've also thought that too. Like, okay, yeah, I'll go be an administrator. I don't know what the hell to do. Like,
no, it's like
have no
you've given me a
idea.
title and an office, but I don't know what I'm doing.
I have no idea. Like, yeah, some teacher comes in. Like, I don't know. Am I allowed to say this to that person or not? And like,
that's fair. Like, what are you actually allowed to recommend?
Yes.
What, yeah, because
yeah.
you know that whatever recommendation you make, like that's obviously how that teacher's going to justify if something goes wrong. Like, it will come back to your. So that's a lot of kind of like skin to have in the game of like every kind of scenario, which is crazy.
I know,
but
I also think like I get along with people pretty well, and I think I'm good at like not getting worked up very easily.
Like de-escalating. I think that could be, and again, yeah, I think I'm a pretty neutral person. Like I don't get angry that easily.
No.
But I always find when I get mad, I just get quiet.
Oh,
that's kind of my.
Yeah, I do. Usually, yeah. I mean, even with the kids that I teach, I always tell them, guys, I'm the nicest teacher that you're gonna have until I'm not.
Well, yeah, because it's
right. Like don't push the button. Like don't like just act normal. But as soon as somebody does something out there or like says something, then they'll show they'll see it. I remember one time I was teaching phys ed, grade 8 phys ed, and
was it the class that we shared?
No, yeah, that was that class. It was back in the day when we were just junior high here.
Okay.
And I think there was 3 classes in the one gym. It must have been.
So before you go any further, what was the year you started working here?
In Fort McMurray?
No, in McTavish.
So I started in 07. I came Fort McMurray.
No, so like
7 years.
Also like 14.
This is my 10th year here.
Okay. So you missed me by 2 years.
Yeah.
Right, so go on to your story.
Crazy.
Crazy.
But I also think it's crazy when I said like former kids, I see them like out places and
and they're like, oh, you have families. Like that's weird.
Normal, but
so you have your grade 8 class.
Yeah, grade 8 class and ton of kids in there. And there's one boy, I don't know what his diagnosis was, but and the other group of boys would always make fun of him, and they're always hard on him, and we knew it, and we catch it and stuff, right? And like, boys, leave him alone, kind of thing.
Yep.
But this is going on for months and months and months, and then finally, they're all sitting on the bleachers. They'd sit down, and we'd stand there and do attendance, and doing attendance, and I can see them picking on him again, and he starts yelling like, "Leave me alone," kind of thing, and I don't know, man, like I snapped.
Yeah.
I snapped. And I walked over, and like one boy in particular, I lost it.
Yeah.
And you're in a zone, right?
Yeah.
Like, who do you think you are kind of speech, And then I stop and I look, and the entire gym, every kid, there must have been like 70 kids in there, and the teachers are all stopped looking, not a peep. They're all just staring. And I was like, and then I just like turned around, walked down, and finished my attendance. Yeah. But like, so, I'm nice until I'm not. Like,
I find like that moment though, because I don't take myself seriously at all. No, or if I try not to. And so whenever I do get mad, it's almost like the moment between the end of that scolding to when you renew your attendance.
You come back to yourself.
Well, I find, but like I'll start laughing to myself, and I had to flaw because I'm like, I need to be able to maintain order to a certain degree. Like, it's not all about being strict, like everyone's in line, but it's like you need to be able to have both sides available to you. Yeah. And I'm getting better at like not being afraid to, not, you don't have to yell to do it,
No.
but it can be through tone or
Let
whatever.
them know that this isn't going
But
to happen anymore. And
I just think like, so how did you, yeah, because when it comes to like, that's an aggressive scolding, but necessary.
yeah.
Right. But so how do you kind of recover from that with that student after? Like, how does your class kind of like cool down after?
Nothing. I went back, we started class, and even from that day afterwards, I didn't like
Hold it
hate
again.
that kid.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just like, we're good. You know how I stand on how to act.
Yeah.
Don't do it again.
Yeah.
And he never really did.
Okay. Well, yeah, that is the most important thing is you cannot hold a grudge against a student.
I know.
Because you'll feel the like inkling to start.
Yeah,
But
you
that's
watch them.
but I think professionalism is when you lock that door.
Yeah.
So you know what? This is a kid. It's like just because we're in a tough spot right now doesn't mean I'm going to like single them out.
Yeah.
Or like be more reactive to them only.
And they are kids. And I guess
Yeah.
by getting that mad, you're trying to teach a lesson.
Yeah. Like you're trying to
Maybe it's not the best way to teach
No,
a lesson,
but I
you're
think
trying to teach a lesson.
No, I don't feel like I'm trying to say like you didn't do
I
it
know.
right. I know, but it's like that wasn't day one. The first year. That was this
Accumulation
needs to
of
stop.
behavior, yeah.
Yeah, like it's not just like this should stop. This is going to stop.
Yeah.
And so that's a different line.
I still had kids years afterwards.
Hey?
I still had kids years after that. They'd
Yeah.
say like, yeah, like Pollard's really nice, but like don't screw on Pollard. And other kids who didn't see it, like, really? Like, yeah, like Pollard, like you know.
Well, to pretend that anyone doesn't have that in them is like you're lying to yourself. Like, so yeah. And so I think like learning to channel that well, and because it's easy to get more loose tongued when you're in that zone.
That's right.
But as long as you're
Same as any fight, say things
yes,
you shouldn't say.
yeah, you're like, shit. But it's like as long as you are like being effective in what you're communicating, I feel like that's obviously more than okay.
Even like there's kids that did not like them when they're in junior high, you know, but kids change a lot. We all change a lot, but teach them now. Some of my favorite kids.
Yeah.
Like they're my favorite kids. And I'm like, wow, like, I don't know, like they changed and maybe it's probably not like holding a grudge against them.
Yeah.
They come up to high school and like, okay, like here we go. Let's, you know, fresh start or whatever.
So this is okay. So this is actually very refreshing because of everyone I've spoken to on here or in private, and maybe this is like a generational thing for that most people hold is like the next generation is kind of always worse in some way.
No, I disagree. People say it all the time.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I think it was Tony Zeglin. He was the principal at Comp.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Long time ago.
Yeah.
Like he's been gone for years from Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
But he said it one time. It was like a big. We were down to Comp for some Friday thing.
Yeah.
And he said, "There's some Greek philosopher.
Yeah.
Who they found his writings and." He was complaining that like, oh, the new generation of kids these days, they're out of control and everything.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just every generation thinks that the next generation's worse.
Yes.
But I think they're better in most ways.
Okay. So in what ways?
Oh my God. Well, even I think of myself when I was in junior high.
Yeah.
Like just, I don't know, the stuff we did. If kids,
they do seem generally more tame.
Yeah. Like they suck in their own ways, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I don't know. But also, like, I'm in a small town. It's probably different, too. Like, we just weren't, like, we were assholes a lot of the time and stuff.
Well, and I'm even wondering, because I've had a few people say, like, oh, like, they're taking longer to grow up. They're taking longer to go on their first date. They're taking longer to get their driver's license. But it's like, was being independent at 17 years old too early? Like, why, as a culture, is that really a horrible thing?
Yeah.
That you're not really independent until you're 23, 24? Like 22 is kind of the new 18.
Yes.
That's kind of like what I would say has changed. And just looking at like my parents versus like my own generation, like my mom had 3 kids at 23.
Oh, wow.
So, and I'm like still childless, like much later than that.
It's
and
very
so
normal these days. People have kids till they're 30, whatever.
And so, but it's like a gradual, like everything is kind of happening 3 to 5 years later.
Yeah.
But is that a bad thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so
even,
either.
Like, maybe, I don't know. I even think about myself. like, and like past generation, like my father's generation, when he was he worked so much harder than I do and knows so much more.
Yes.
Like I remember like even coming out here and like, I don't know, changing your own tires and stuff. Like I was like, it dawns on you, like, I don't know how to do that.
No.
Like when he was 14, he's probably doing that.
He's working on a shop on the weekends.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
You know, and so I guess maybe like kids are getting worse, but we're part of that too. Like we're worse than our parents.
We are full on enabling them
Yeah.
to like, no, we'll figure it out.
But we're also better in a lot of ways too. Like, you know, or
like in what ways?
Well, I don't know. Like I think we're more the world in general is more informed.
Yeah,
you know?
I think so too. Yeah.
No, but no, people say kids these days, and I don't agree. Like, they suck, but kids, they always suck, right? Teenagers.
Well, it's hilarious that you say that about the like how much harder they work, because I don't know if it's because I'm so embedded in like, I mean, half of what I teach is genocide. Like, that's literally social like studies, my life is for all day social, all day where it's like either colonialism and or genocide combined. And so people are like, oh, like teaching's the worst job ever. Yeah, like don't do it. And I'm like, I know. I could be like in a gulag. Like, that's just, I don't know. And that's the wrong perspective, because like obviously there's things that can be improved upon. Sure. Whatever. Yeah. Like with anything, anywhere, things can be improved upon. But I always kind of come back to, and that's not even like no, I'm just here to serve. Like, it's not like this kind of noble, but it's.
Then do it for free.
Well, yeah, it's like I wouldn't do it for free, but it's like, it could be so much worse.
So much worse. I'm inside. I'm not working like minus
40 outside. And I don't know.
My father said that too. Like he worked power lines, like originally climbing poles in the middle of winter. And
like if the power goes out, they're calling you.
Yes,
in a storm.
He missed Christmases and stuff, but he's fixing people's power.
Well, you have your generator running.
I know. Or home, cozy. And I remember he said to me, he's like, Greg, get a job where you're not working outside in snowstorms. You know, like, and I was the first 3 brothers, but I was the only one that went to university. And I don't know. I always kind of liked school. I was pretty good at my brothers, not necessarily. Yeah. But they're beyond talented. Like one, you know, one's a cabinet maker.
The idea that you don't get a liberal arts or like a university education. Hey everyone, thank you all for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Just wanted to say again, if there are any issues with professional conduct and or you would like to share your own story, experience, or have something you would like to contribute to the show, please do not hesitate to reach out at lucasrdclark97@gmail.com or send a direct message on Instagram to @MrClarkAfterDark. Hope you all enjoyed, potentially found something of use, and of course, please do not forget to subscribe. See you guys all next time. Unless you're scared.